So we're going to talk opening up, being present, doing what matters, and so much more. Now, we did a bit of a rehearsal on how we welcome people here at the APB Summit. So let's see how loud you can please make some noise. Toby Jenkins!
Let's get down to business.
Thank you.
Maybe one more night, got this. We've had a million.
G'day everyone. Welcome back from lunch. It's good to be here. Look, today we are going to be talking about reinventing leadership and leadership mindset specifically. And one of the things that we will be touching on today is mindfulness. And I wanted to start today by ripping straight in. Everyone ready? Hello, Andrew Kenny. It's been a long time since school days. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take us through a breath pattern, which is breathing in for 4, holding that breath for 7, and out for 8. And we're going to do this 3 times. So that's breathe in for 4, hold for 7, and out for 8. And then I'm going to take us through a brief visualization and really dial it in. Make sure that we are actually here in the room after lunch. So I'd love you to join me. Eyes closed, sit comfortably. I'm going to close my eyes too. And just bring your attention to your breath. Just notice what's going in through your nose, out through your nose. And now let's all breathe in together. 2, 3, 4, and hold that breath. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and in. 2, 3, 4, and hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and in. And hold. And out. Now just bring your attention to the soles of your feet. What can you notice there? The texture of your sock, the pressure against the floor. And now extend that awareness down into the floor and let it run down the sides of the building and onto the land on which we gather here today. And just to reflect and recognise that for tens of thousands of years, many thousands upon thousands of people have walked this land before us, from the Gadigal people to the present day. And that we stand on the actions that they took, the decisions that they made here in the present, the contributions that they made. And then to project into the future, to recognise that for many, many more years, many more people will walk this land after us. And that they will stand on the actions that we take, the decisions that we make in bringing forward the richness of the contributions of the past here into the legacy that we are leaving every single day. Now let your attention come back up off the land, let it come up the sides of the building again, run along the floor and come to rest again on the soles of your feet. What can you notice there this time? Any difference in sensation? And then, in your own time, come on back to the room. Okay, so when it comes to reinventing leadership and the mindset that underpins it, this is something I'm fascinated by, because as an Olympian, I used to think that that mindset and leadership and the decision making was all about being harder and tougher and stronger. And I used to think that it was about eliminating stress and pressure. And I used to think that it was about setting goals and just chasing them and chasing them and chasing them. I can tell you what, I got pretty good at it. But what the science says is that at best, I had 1/3 of the strategies that I needed to truly operate in situations of stress and pressure. It was a bit like sitting on a one-legged stool and wondering why it felt wobbly. What the science, this 4 decades of evidence say, is in fact we need to develop 3 pillars. We need to learn to open up, we need to learn to be present, and we need to learn to do what matters. So that's open up, be present, and do what matters. And if we can develop these pillars, then what we find is that people are better able to manage stress and pressure. We are better able to navigate change. We are better able to lead ourselves and lead others. We're better able to perform and deliver when it truly matters. And for me, and perhaps most importantly, we are better able to be ourselves through the process. Now, in my practice as an executive coach and performance coach with teams, I've seen this work for SAS soldiers, I've seen it work for Olympic gold medalists, I've seen it work for founders of businesses, executives in multinational firms, I've seen it work for doctors, for parents, for educators. I've seen it work for 14-year-olds all the way through to 64-year-olds. And it's worked in 3 specific settings: at work, in relationships, and in our health. At work, I've seen this toolkit that I'm about to begin and introduce you to today work to help negotiate and navigate billion-dollar-plus transactions. I've seen it help people exit businesses, stay in businesses that they thought they didn't want to stay in anymore. I've seen it help them step into the challenging conversations that all of us have to face as leaders every single day. In relationships, I've seen it help people and my clients navigate domestic violence situations. I've seen it help them repair relationships. In health, I've seen it help people to pay attention and execute on the tiny little incremental steps that we all need to take in order to look after our health, that we all know that we need to take. Rarely is it a lack of knowledge. And I've seen it transform a 17-year running phobia in half an hour to help a client of mine begin to run and continue to run for years to come. My hope is that it can work for you. Today, the agenda is straightforward. I'm going to introduce you to the science, and we are going to unpack that science in a series of activities, so then you leave here today with an evidence-based, personalised toolkit that you can put into practice immediately on leaving the room. That all sound okay? Cool. So, a question for you. Who here has had some leadership wins lately? Couple, hands up, great. Nice to see a few wins in the room. Anyone had any leadership fails lately? Couple, yep. Good to see there's some truth in the room too. Anyone had leadership go so badly wrong they had to leave the country? Right? Thankfully you're all here. What we're talking about here is the truth of what we all face every single day, which is yin-yang. Many of you would be familiar with this symbol, right? And the knowledge that there are no highs without lows. There is no triumph without trial. There is no love without suffering. How do we actually work with all of this? Because all of us as individuals have hopes and dreams and aspirations. We also have fears and doubts and frustrations. I guarantee you, I've seen behind some incredible trophy cabinets, and behind every single one, there is fear and doubt and frustration. So how do we stop just grasping after the aspirational components and come to learn to embrace all of it and to recognise that it is the price of entry to doing what matters, to doing what we care about? And really that's what psychological flexibility as a toolkit can help us with. Anyone know what this is? Take a guess. Shout out. Water polo ball. So I want you to picture this for a minute. It's Athens. It's 2004. It's the Olympic Games, and I'm playing in the Australian water polo team. It's a dream come true. It's been 11 years since I first wrote down that I wanted to play for Australia. And it's been inevitable highs and lows, ups and downs. Missed out on the team in Sydney, made the 2001 World Championship team, made the 2003 World Championship team, and here I am in Athens, finally selected. It's a dream come true. And it's game 3. It's a medal critical game. And of course, who are we playing? The Greeks. And we're 30 seconds from halftime, leading by a goal in the most intense game of water polo I've ever played. And I'm in the pool. And up here on my right are 6,000 Greeks. It's an indoor pool, you can just imagine. They are going absolutely berserk. It's a sea of blue and white. And in amongst them, there are islands of green and gold. I'm one of 5 kids. My parents are there, my siblings are there. Mates have flown all the way from Australia to watch me play. The Greeks miss a shot behind me, and I start sprinting up the pool. My goalie, Jimmy Stanton, grabs the ball, launches it up the pool, comes sailing over my head and lands in front of me. So there's me, the ball, and the Greek goalie down where the doors are. My question to you all is, what do you think goes through an Olympian's mind in a moment like this? Just shout out. What do you think? Goal. Goal? What else? Don't fuck it up. Well played. Any others?
Control the ball.
Control the ball. Let me share. Focus. Let me share. First thing that went through my mind was get me out of here. I wish someone else was taking this shot. I missed these in training. I missed these in games. And I was like, no, come on, Toby. This is the Olympics. You've trained for this. This is your turn. You can do it. Family's in the stand. Let's go, let's go, let's go. So this is all running around my mind at 1,000,000 miles an hour. And of course, I'm physically exhausted from having played half of the most intense water polo I've ever played. At the same time, emotionally jacked on what this represents for me, the team. So I swim in with the ball, pick it up from underneath, balk once, and I take the shot. Now, this story doesn't have a happy ending. Greek goalie saves it, pulls it in, and I sink to the bottom of the pool mortified by the fact that I've just missed this shot. That in water polo terms, you've got to score these. And as I bounce off the bottom of the pool and I look across to my left, my teammate Dino, 4 metres away, he'd been screaming at me, hadn't heard a thing. Would have been the easiest of passes for the easiest of goals. And in water polo terms, the odds of success go from about 70-30 to 99-1. And then, of course, the Greek goalie gets the ball, sends it down the field. Greek player gets it, shoots and scores. And so I'm sure you've all experienced it, whether in business or other areas of your life where you have that sense of momentum just vanishes. You know, the wind knocked out of your sails. And ultimately, we ended up losing that game. We lost it by 2 goals, and we finished 9th in the Olympics. Did it all boil down to that one shot? No, of course not. But boy, I have to tell you, some days it still feels like it. So my question to you all then is, as I've learned more and more about how we can truly operate in situations of stress and pressure, what I've learned is that clearly berating myself for past poor performance is not helpful to me scoring the goal, right? But equally, and interestingly, as much of a distraction, the positive thoughts, equally useless. Cheering myself on, thinking about my family in the stand, thinking about the training that I've done in the 11 years leading up to this moment. None of that helps me score this goal. So tell me, shout out again. Where should my attention have been in that moment? What's that, sorry?
In the net.
In the net? Yep. Where else? On others? Yep. Team? What's that, sorry? In the now. Yeah, well, it's called task-focused attention, which is in the moment, on the task at hand. And had I been able to find task-focused attention in this moment, which is also incredibly challenging, right? It's not saying it's easy, but I would have recognised that the exact same checklist that I was taught as a 13-year-old, first learning how to play water polo and how to take these one-on-one shots, was exactly the same checklist that applied at an Olympic Games in a medal critical game in a moment of a one-on-one shot. And that first step of that checklist was to stick my head up, look around, assess the situation. And had I taken just step number 1, the odds of success get dramatically changed. I would have seen Dino, all my worst fears come to nothing. I would have been able to pass to Dino and I didn't have to take the shot. And so the challenge then becomes, well, how on earth can we get this task-focused attention when the pressure is on as leaders? How can we do that? And really, that is the purpose of psychological flexibility.
But had you got the goal, everything would have been different.
I know. I wouldn't be up here telling the story. So, psychological flexibility, the core model is this triangle. And I'm going to give you access to all these slides and stuff at the end, so take your notes as you will. And the core model is this triangle, and it's called the ACT triflex. Doesn't really matter so much. But the three pillars of it are open up. And opening up is not necessarily about opening up to others. It's actually opening up to our own lived experience of discomfort and being willing to experience discomfort in service of the things that really matter to us. The second pillar then is be present. We often talk about mindfulness, and you've probably heard about mindfulness. It comes with a lot of baggage. Often, the perception is that you sit in a corner with a cushion and a candle and you say, "Om" to the universe. And that's what mindfulness is about. But the kind of mindfulness that I'm talking about is the mindfulness that's required, or that a Le Mans world champion race car driver practices. For 1.2 seconds, a mindful sip from his water bottle at 340 k's an hour down the back straight at Le Mans. It's not about feeling good necessarily, even though that may be an outcome of practicing this over time. It is about coming back to the present to recognise that I have a choice here. And what's interesting is that we have 50,000 cognitions in any day. So thoughts, feelings, sensations, memories, images. There's no possible way that we can control them all or make them all go away. And so how do we open up to them? And then how can we be present in these moments enough to recognise that we have a choice of our response? The final pillar then is do what matters. So understanding the context, what matters here, who matters, what outcomes matter, what are my values, how am I going to live these right now? And then the do part is taking action that moves us towards it. It's not thinking about it, it's not intentions, it's not manifesting, it is taking action towards the things that matter to us. So how do we get clear on that and combine all of these things in a never-ending practice? So, we're going to unpack this triangle together for you. What I'd love you to do is pull out your phone or a notepad, and we're going to go through this together. We're going to go through each of the pillars. I'd like you to title your note Reinvention Activity. I'll give you all of these questions from this activity as a part of the resources from this session. So Reinvention Activity, and your first header, please, is open up. And while you're writing that down, I'd like you to bring to mind a challenge that you are facing currently. What is a challenge that you're facing, either personally, professionally? What are you facing? And then we're going to use that as our little test case to run around this triangle for yourself. So please write down the challenge in a word or two. I know some of you are here with teams, so if it's the person sitting next to you, please choose something else. And in Open Up, I'm going to get some thinking music on in a second, but I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, and I'll give you 30 seconds or so to answer each of these. And I really want you to take whatever first shows up, okay? So if we can cue in some music, please. First question is, when you think about the challenge of this situation, what are the tough or unhelpful thoughts that show up for you? Write those down. What are the tough or unhelpful thoughts that show up for you? Take whatever first shows up. Next question then is, what are the tough or unhelpful emotions that show up for you? It could be anger, fear, frustration, imposter. Tough or unhelpful emotions that show up for you. Next question then is, what are the tough or unhelpful sensations that show up for you physiologically? Might be sweaty palms, might be butterflies in the stomach. What shows up for you? Next question then is, when you think about these thoughts, these feelings, these sensations, where do you experience them in or around your body? Might be in the stomach, might be on the chest, might be around the head. This shows up in all sorts of different ways for different people. Where do you experience them in or around your body? Next question then is, does it have a size or shape? And again, from hundreds of these conversations, these things take up all sorts of different sizes and shapes. Pyramids, balls, oblongs on the chest, hoodies. Does it have a size or shape? Is it a golf ball? Is it a basketball? Next question then is, does it have a texture or colour? Soft, smooth, sharp, prickly, red, grey, black. Final question, does it have a weight or temperature? And sorry, last question is, can you give it a name? The whole experience, from thoughts all the way down to the sensations, the colour, the texture, can you give that whole experience a name, a label? Often a tricky one, so just take whatever first shows up. Okay, thanks. Thank you. So what you've just done there are two evidence-based techniques to work with stress and pressure in a different way. The first is writing it down. The very act of writing down your thoughts, your feelings, your sensations creates some space between you and that experience. So if you're about to step into a difficult conversation, or you're about to step into an exciting situation or a pitch that that really feels like a high pressure moment, take 30 seconds on your phone to write down, what am I thinking? What am I feeling? What are my sensations? How is this showing up for me? If you can do that, what we find is that we can create a little bit of space. It's not to make them go away. It's not to try to change them. It's just to create the space to recognise that we still have a choice here. Now, the second thing you did is give it a label. And in giving this tough, unhelpful experience a name, what we do is we create, again, a different relationship with it. And there's a great story in Buddhism that I love, where the demon Mara, which is in Buddhism is the demon of everything awful, and Buddha have this cosmic battle. Eventually Mara slinks off, Buddha walks away unscathed. A little while later, Buddha's at home and he hears a knock at the door. Buddha goes to the door, opens the door, and there is the demon Mara standing there. And he says to Mara, please come in. And he brings Mara into the house, seats Mara at the head of the table, pours tea for Mara, treats Mara as a revered house guest, and eventually Mara walks away. And this doesn't happen just once in this enlightened being's life. Mara keeps on knocking, and Buddha keeps on opening the door. And the practice here, and what the science calls it, as well as millennia-old traditions call it, is acceptance, with a capital A, acceptance. How do we open the door to these tough and unhelpful experiences to recognise that they are a part of who we are? For me, that's as soon as I come into a room or I'm coming up the lift to this building to get ready for this presentation, I feel like an imposter. Is anyone going to be interested? Is this going to be engaging? Is this going to be useful? But this is a story that has followed me for as long as I can remember. Always felt like I was the last one selected on any team I ever made. Shows up at work all the time. So how do you work with it? And now what I want to do is bring Mara into the room with me, or my equivalent of Mara. I've actually called it Toby because it's just a part of who I am now. But how do you bring in this energy, the nervousness, the fear of failure or imposter or whatever it is, however it shows up for you, and it shows up for different people in different ways. How do you bring it into the room to give you the energy to do what really matters? So they're the two techniques for open up. The second pillar, a new header in your note please, is be present. Now, in Be Present, we've already explored one of the tools, which was the 4-7-8 breath. Breathing in for 4, holding for 7, and out for 8. So let's just do that once more. So sitting there, this time I want your eyes open, please. Because mindfulness doesn't mean going away and doing mindfulness. Mindfulness is about being mindful here in the present. So keeping your eyes open, if you bring your attention to your breath again, like we did earlier, notice it going in and out of your nose. And then let's breathe in together. 2, 3, 4, and hold that breath. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Who can hear the air conditioning? It's been there all along, right? The opportunity to be mindful is through our senses. I can stand here and feel the air conditioning on my skin as well, the sensation on my palm. You can hear. What can you see? What can you smell? What can you taste? That is the avenue back to the present, and it is with us at all times. So that's a very neat little tool, that one. The other one that a lot of my clients use, particularly when they're in situations of challenging conversations, had a building client of mine use it literally the day after a workshop because he stepped into a challenging situation with a subcontractor, and this is remembering to bring a water bottle with you or a glass of water into a meeting. If you know it's going to be a difficult one, take that with you. And then just take a mindful sip of that water. All this does is just buys you 1 or 2 seconds, right? And again, it's not about making you feel better necessarily, but it's that interrupter. It's the scalpel that sits between the reaction that we cannot control physiologically, emotionally, cognitively, and our response. How am I going to choose to respond here? So a little tool like a bottle of water, glass of water, really useful. The third tool I wanted to leave you with in this Be Present section is my favourite, and that is a single question. I'd love you to write this down. And that question is, what if this is the last time? What if this is the last time? There's something about this question that encapsulates the whole lot. Makes us think and reflect on death and appreciate the life that we're living. It forces us to open up to the experience that we're having right now. It asks us to be present, and then it asks us, how do I actually want to respond here? My favourite place for using this particular question is when one or all 3 of my daughters are going at me at bedtime. What if this is the last time I get to put them to bed? I sure hope it's not. But what if it was? How do I want to act here? What if this is the last time you have a coffee? What if this is the last time you see a friend? What if this is the last time you say goodbye to your partner? What if this is the last time you say goodbye to your kids? Because one day it definitely will be. We never know. But there's something incredibly powerful about this question that encompasses really the whole of this model. The final part then, new header for your note please, is do what matters. And I'll get some music again, please, Alex. Thank you. And for this one, I'm just going to ask you 3 questions quickly. The first of those questions is what? I'll give you 30 seconds for these as well, everyone. So what are your values? What are your values? Write those down. Next question then is, what is important to you? Can be hopes, dreams, aspirations, goals, outcomes. What is important to you? And final question then is, who is important to you? It can be individuals or groups of people. Who is important to you? Write that down. Excellent. Thanks, Alex. What I'd love you all to do for me, just on that last question. So can everyone just raise your hand for me, please? Hands up. Okay. So please keep your hand up if your own name is on the list of who is important to you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. This is a high performance crowd. I'm lucky to get 4 in a room. 5, sorry. 5. Without you, there is no relationship to anyone or anything else. As business owners, how do you manage your time? How do you manage your energy? How do you manage your priorities? This is critical. Because without you, without your energy, what happens to your business? What happens to the teams that you are leading? What happens to your families? So how do we put our own name back on the list? So please, if there's nothing else you do from today, please put your own name on the list. Literally, right now. If you haven't written it down, add your own name to it, please. Okay. What I would love you to do now is to turn to the person next to you. And we've danced around this triangle. And what I'd love you to do is just think for a minute, what is one thing that I'm going to take out of this exploration for me? Take a second, write that down for me. What is one thing that I'm going to take out and commit to doing when I think about the questions that have been asked? Now, I'd love you to turn to the person next to you and have a chat. I'll give you a minute each. What have you taken from this? Let's go. Go for it. Some really interesting discussion going on, and certainly the question of what if this is the last time seems to be resonating, as does this idea of it, just making sure your own name is on the list of who's important. Because there are families at stake here. It's actually not about everyone else necessarily. The oxygen mask theory came up. We need to put our own oxygen mask on in order to be of service, to look after the people we love. And so how do we remind ourselves to keep coming back? And I have to say, all of these things are never-ending practices, I'm sorry to say. There are no silver bullets. I'm practicing this all the time. The anger that I have experienced as a parent, like the only previous experience that was similar to that was getting punched in the head in a water polo game. I'm serious. But I try not to operate from that place. But it's bloody hard. And what's interesting here, just to draw a quick connection here between open up and do what matters. It's a super important point, which is we typically don't experience anxiety, frustration, rage, fear when we're doing the dishes at night, do we? But it is not because we are weak or broken or inadequate or something is missing that these things show up. It is because we care. And in fact, the more we care, the more likely they are to show up. It's why the exam feels harder than the exercise in the back of the textbook. It's why game day feels harder than training. It's why I showed up at the athlete village and thought I had a stomach infection. It stopped the day I left. A physiological response to how important I had built this event up for myself. So how can we learn to open up, to accept that pressure and stress is the price of entry? The more we care, the more likely it is to show up. Now, I'd love you to grab resources here. There's a QR code I'll get out of the way. This will give you access to templates, worksheets, and more around developing psychological flexibility. If you are interested in finding out more, whether that's as individuals or for your teams, then please reach out and let me know. This is a topic I hope is clear that I'm deeply passionate about and have huge conviction on this evidence base as well to help people through these situations of stuck or major transitions, major shifts. So if I can help or lead you further down the path, please let me know. So, one last story for you then. I want you to picture this. So it's 1998. Sorry, I'll just recap this actually. So in Do What Matters, we spoke about those 3 questions, and it's really about understanding what matters to you. And it's really about emerging the themes, like the answers are neither here nor there. It's what are the themes that emerge for you. In Be Present, we spoke about the 3 techniques, the 4-7-8 breath, the water bottle, and also that question, what if this is the last time? And in Open Up, we spoke about the 2 evidence-based techniques of writing down your thoughts, your feelings, your sensations, and also learning by labelling these tough experiences to open the door, the metaphorical door to these experiences, because sooner or later it'll get kicked in if we don't open it ourselves. The story I wanted to leave you with kind of summarises all of this, and I want you to picture this. So it's 1998. I'm down at the Australian Institute of Sport. I've just come down, first year out of high school, left family in Brisbane, come down here. I'm the youngest guy in the AIS squad at the time, and Sydney Olympics is well and truly on the horizon. Of course, the whole ramp up to that is incredibly exciting. And at the same time, it has been one of the most challenging years I've ever had. I've trained as hard as I've ever trained before. I have missed out on numbers of tours with the national men's team. I made a junior tour, but I was really disappointed that I hadn't made the squads to go away with the national men's team as well. So enormously challenging year. And here I am in September, and I'm in if any of you have been to the AIS or done the tour, there's the indoor pool, indoor 50-metre swimming pool, and there's a room above that pool that's just a meeting room. And I'm sitting in the room, and the coach is going through the agenda for this training camp with the Serbs. So the Serbian national team is out. We've got a week of training and then a week of official games up in Sydney. 40 guys have flown in from all over the country, the best players in the country, some of whom are my great mates, others are heroes of mine. And the coach at the end of this meeting says, stick your hand up if you have not got your uniform for the camp. I stick my hand up, and he says, in front of all the guys, Toby, you weren't officially selected for this squad. You're here as a part of the AIS program, so you can train, but you won't be getting a uniform, togs, shirt. And I was like, whoa, ouch. I was ashamed, I was embarrassed, and I thought, okay, well, I'll do what I can. So I trained the rest of the week. Got to the Saturday of that week, we're back in the same meeting room again, same crew of guys, and the coach says, we're getting organised for Sydney, and the coach says, okay, everyone, who here does not have travel or accommodation arrangements for Sydney now that we're heading up there for the official games? Sucker for punishment. I don't. And he says, Toby, you need to make, if you're going to come, you need to make your own arrangements for travel and accommodation. Once again in front of the group, and another stinger. And here I was thinking, would I ever be good enough really to play with this team? Was I ever going to be enough? And anyway, I said to my mate, Tommy, hey mate, would it be okay if I stay with you at your folks' place and get a lift up? And he said, of course, Tobes, come on up. Let's do it. And so I go up to Sydney. One of the assistant coaches says to me, oh, Toby, if you're going to come up, then you can video some of the games. I think, well, nothing's going on in Canberra. I may as well. Then finally, it's time for the first official game. And I'm under the stadium at Homebush now. So in the aquatic centre, if you've ever been there, there's meeting rooms under the stadium there, under the seating. And I'm standing there with, at the back of the room, the coach has been through the game plan. The players are all doing their land-based warm-up in the room, and I'm standing up the back just watching and observing and trying to learn. And the coach says, "Rightio, everyone, let's go out to the pool deck, let's get in the water and start warming up." And I step out of the room and into the hallway as all the players are starting to come out. And I feel this hand grab my forearm. And I turn around and it's my vice captain, Nathan Thomas. He's the vice captain of the Australian team. In 1998 World Championships, earlier that year, he'd been named one of the most dangerous players in the world. He'd just come back 2 or 3 months ago from playing professionally in Spain. And honestly, I didn't really know him well. I admired the guy. I'd seen him play, and he was a bit of a hero, but I didn't know him well. And he'd grabbed my arm and sort of pulled me aside a bit, and he opened up his bag. And out of his bag, he pulled an old T-shirt that looked a lot like the ones that the guys had been given as a part of the uniform. Australian logo, all that kind of stuff on it. And he said, "Tobes, I've been watching. I've seen the effort that you've put in. And I want you to know that one day, I think you are going to earn one of these for yourself." And it still gets me. He just walked off. That was it. An old T-shirt, 30 seconds of his time, and it completely transformed really my life in a lot of ways. The lessons from this, as I see them, is one, I'm super proud of my 18-year-old self. As I look back now, the effort that he put in, the training, the willingness to pursue this dream that he had, that I had, and put himself through what he put himself through is remarkable. And so I'm really proud of that. And I'm also just staggered by this moment by Nath. As I said, 30 seconds of his time, an old T-shirt, but more the fact that he was aware. He had seen me, this player who was really the most junior in the team, least experienced, least decorated out of all the players in this room, and over the couple of months that we've been training together. And he, in a position of privilege and power, really in this dynamic, had seen me and taken this opportunity just to think it through, and this tiny act of kindness. And it's one of those things, right, where it is not a debt that can be repaid. And Nathan and I have since had many conversations around this. He became my captain in Athens. And what I realised was that this is only a debt that can be paid forward. And the final piece here that I wanted to highlight too is that in a room like this, with 200 of you in similar industries trying to support one another, really trying to get the best out of one another in this environment, is that none of us do it alone. The myth of the self-made man, the myth of the self-made woman, it is nonsense. We all go through hard times and we all need that helping hand when we least expect it. And so how do we as leaders show up, find those moments for our teams, find those moments for each other and the communities that we operate in? To me, this is one of the greatest leadership lessons I've ever learned. And so I really wanted to leave you with this idea, given we've spoken so much around how little control we have of the world around us, we have such little control of the world inside of us as well. What I would love you to reflect on is just how can you, in these situations of challenge and stress, open up? How can you learn to open up? How can you use these tools? How can we learn to be present in these moments? And ultimately, and most importantly, how can we learn to do what matters? Thanks very much, everyone.